Move forward on to conduct of business.
Conduct of business, item 6A. Approve, design, and adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with G. Bortolotto and Company for the 2018 street rehabilitation project in the amount of $3,564,770 and approving a construction contingency of $550,000. Authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for material testing and inspection services with Pavement Engineering in an amount not to exceed $145,715 and approving a total project budget in the amount of $4,694,600.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The City CIP includes the street resurfacing program to repair and apply preventive maintenance treatment to local collector and arterial streets. And like various cities throughout the Bay Area, the city uses a pavement management program called Street Saver to analyze pavement condition, inspection data, and evaluate the selection of streets for maintenance and replacement and assess how it will impact future pavement condition index ratings. So the city current PCI rating average for the street network is 63. This is what the PCI index looks like. It's a gradation from 0 to 100, and we're currently in the fair category. So the overall goal of the pavement program is to provide the highest quality network of pavement possible for the traveling public at an available funding level. So to achieve this goal, and with the limited available budget, we need to properly plan the pavement program to select the right treatment at the right time, and have continuous preventive maintenance program to extend the life of the roadway. So therefore, preserving and performing the preventive maintenance on existing streets that are in good condition is critical in order to prevent them from failing. So the methodologies to select the streets for this project were reviewed and approved in the previous discussions of the Surface Infrastructure Subcommittee and the City Council on September 2017. And to select the contractor, staff issued a notice to bidders in July and received 3 bids at the bid opening day. And since the construction cost has risen through the years, the project was advertised for construction with the basis of award as the base bid and additive alternative streets in order to determine the amount of streets that could be constructed with the available budget. The lowest bid was from G. Bortolotto and Company, and as part of the project, staff is including all of the base bid streets plus 2 additional additive alternative streets. So this table shows all the streets included in the project. All the street segments are part of the base bid, except for the Valleywood Drive and Heather Lane, which was added to the project from the additive alternate streets segment because their PCIs were low. And staff is recommending to award the project to G. Bortolotto and Company because the firm has experience with paving projects and have completed projects of similar nature for other cities such as Cupertino, Palo Alto, and San Jose. So in addition to this contract, staff is recommending to award a contract for material testing and inspection services to provide dedicated inspection and oversight of the project. The city received 5 proposals from Construction Testing Services, Inspection Services, Neo and Moore, NV5, and Pavement Engineering, and is currently recommending pavement engineering for this project. The firm has been in business for more than 30 years. In addition to the construction management inspection services, the firm will provide other services that includes performing field density tests using nuclear density gauge to monitor contractors' compaction efforts, lay down inspection areas, that includes performing thickness control, placement of asphalt concrete, and temperature monitoring. The firm will also collect asphalt concrete and perform mixed design tests from every 750 tons of asphalt concrete that's being placed, or 1 test per day of surface material. So in regards to the fiscal impact, the estimated project cost is about $4.6 million, and the carryover balance of about $4.8 million is adequate to fund this project. So there's no additional appropriations being requested for this project. So this concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Questions of staff, council?
Through the chair. The paving that was done up in the Crestmore neighborhood, is there technology that's coming out that's less expensive? I mean, I know this is a lot of money, but we're probably still just staying at status quo with our current rating, right? I mean, do we see us increasing, and how much do you anticipate that number? I guess there's a couple of questions. Number one is there something coming in technology coming to order to do more of this? I mean, this is a small percentage of streets that need paving, and we know that, but that you could see the cost in this project is quite large. So this stuff is needed, and I do appreciate looking at some of these streets that are really at the lower rating. We can spend the same amount of money and get more streets completed that aren't as low in the percentage of the condition of the streets, but I'm glad to see some of these other streets that haven't been addressed for a number of years. But I guess going back to the original question is there, what's out there do we see something coming in the future to actually improve this, or are we just would be putting more money aside for street paving?
Correct. I think the paving work that was used over in the Crestmore neighborhood, I think they used recycled asphalt to reapply the paving material, and that's something that can be looked at for future projects as well. But it's still, there's not too many contractors that actually does that type of work, so it's pretty specialized. And with that project, you need extensive amount of area in order for us to be cost effective.
Gotcha.
And so but just something that we can look at as well in the future. And then there's other treatments that are out there, Cape seals that are being used. You apply chips and then you apply slurry on top of that. That's a little bit lesser cost treatment for paving, but it really depends on the longevity wise. It's a little bit different than a regular mill and fill project.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments this morning?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit about what Vice Mayor Davis said of how we're going to have to explore other ways to pave our streets because it's so expensive and we have so much to do. I think it's great. The one question that I have about Susan Drive is we were talking about some bulb outs, and are those bulb outs previously, I guess, approved by council? Is that work going to mesh with this paving project?
So the city council didn't approve the concrete bulb outs for Susan Drive. We ended up putting curbs, around the
Extruded curb?
Extruded curb with
Okay.
the poles is that was recommended. But so with that, it shouldn't affect any of this paving work at all.
But I haven't driven over there in quite a while, so that's all installed?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So we have a proposal from a designer to help us design that, as well as the Cherry and San Bruno Avenue, which we'll be bringing to council shortly.
So we'll pave it first, and then we'll put the extruded
That's
curb on
correct.
top? Okay. And looking at, I mean, this is great, spending close to $5 million for total project. The concern that I think that is going forward is we're not budgeting $5 million a year. We have $1.7 million budgeted next year. We have a $1 million budgeted 19-20, and another $1 million 2021. And we're not going to be able to do much more if we don't find another funding mechanism to pay for these much needed street improvements.
Correct. And the budget for $1.7 million next year, that includes the SB1 funding, which could be repealed this November. So if Proposition 6 passes, then the SB1 money goes away, and the city will end up with $1 million in annual budget for the paving program.
Okay. So hopefully for those people that are paying attention, then we want to make sure that the SB1 funds are available and to be aware of that when they're voting. So I've worked with G. Bartolotto before. They did City Parkway and a number of other streets. They did a good job. Of course, the traffic control is always challenging with paving contractors, so I'm sure we're going to have a city employee involved with approving the traffic control plans, as well as having the on-site density testing by the identified subcontractor.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Any other questions or comments from council?
Through the chair.
Michael?
Just a question about the remaining streets and their condition. Is the complete streets list and the PCI index for those streets available on the website? Is that current? I know it was out there at one point.
At one point, yeah. The thing with that is the PCI changes throughout, every 6 months or a year, right? The number continues to drop. So, we can provide an updated information on the city's website if that's,
Sure.
there's an interest.
How often do you evaluate that number?
Once a year when we do
Once
our
a year.
paving program.
So if we could at least have it refreshed whenever it's evaluated, I think that would be useful. The other thing I thought would be interesting, because I still hear complaints that we're not addressing all parts of the city equally and that some parts get more attention than others. And I was wondering if there would be a way to have a map that shows that index, at least by maybe zone. Maybe we can come up with quadrants or some areas that we can identify where the worst conditions exist, and on any given year, which ones we're addressing, so that that we can show that we are, in fact, addressing urgent needs, not necessarily showing preferential treatment to one neighborhood or another. So I think that would be useful if we could come up with something like that.
City
Sure.
Manager.
A number of the council questions have kind of revolved around our backlog, and absolutely, we would like to address more of the backlog in streets. Really what that takes is additional resources, and one of the financial challenges that we have is we have a structural deficit. And so in our operating budget, we're using reserves to cover some of our operating costs. And so we need to look at opportunities to, one, address that structural deficit, but also bring more revenue into the city so we can apply more to some of our needed facility assets. And so one of the things that is on staff's work plate is to look at ways to address those financial challenges and look at potential ways to bring in more revenue. And so we will continue to work on that and bring both revenue and other options to address our kind of financial issues to the council. But all of those are really germane to this issue about increasing our road maintenance, is really having the resources to do that. Many of the streets on here are residential and collector streets that we really do not receive a lot of grant funding for. And so to redo these streets really comes from the local resources that we have. And so that is really kind of looking at our total financial picture, likely having more revenue to apply.
And then also, Councilman Salazar, when the subcommittee meets, there is a map that we hadn't had for a long time, which actually will say, when was that street last paved or slurried, just so that we have that. What is the rating? And then therefore, it kind of gives the subcommittee a very clear picture, because I've heard the same thing, well, you just did that street. So they have that noted as far back as records indicate. It won't happen for every street, but just as an FYI.
No,
We can always present that as far as with the packet too for council's review.
Right. No, I think it would be important to share that with the public as well.
Yeah, right, please.
Just wanted to add one more thing to that on the east side and west side of town. It's important for the public also to be aware that we're holding off on doing some of the repairs in some of the avenue streets that are going to be receiving new water and new sewer systems. So it would make no sense to go ahead and pave that, and then in the next 4 or 5 plus years that we would be going through there and putting new water and sewer in. So we have an old city. We need new revenue. It's going to be a broken record for me of saying that over and over again, because that's the fact. We have an old city that needs a lot of maintenance, and it's expensive right now, very expensive. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
So it would be a motion to, city clerk is, I had a little training class here. So we need a motion to introduce the resolution?
Adopt the
To adopt the resolution with a second. So is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Aye.
There's a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Medina.
Aye.